Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to be looking at the new MacBook from Apple and seeing how it compares to the other options you have, which is the MacBook Air and the MacBook Pro. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and open up the Apple comparison, which you can see on store.apple.com /UK/Mac/compare. And I'm just going to read these through to you so they make a little bit more sense. So the first thing we can look at is the sizes and the pricing. The sizing, you can get 12-inch on the new MacBook, 11-inch on the Air, and 13 on the Air, and you can also do 13 and 15 on the Pro. One thing to also notice here is that you can't get Retina on the Air, but we can look at that further on in display. Next is the price, which is all from prices, is they can be upgraded. MacBook starting at 1,050, Air from 750, which is quite a lot cheaper, and the Pro starts at £900. And then we can move on to the display. The only ones that don't have Retina are the bottom Pro and the Airs. I have Retina MacBook Pro Retina 13-inch, and I love it. It gives you much higher quality screen than you do on the Airs, and I've also got a 13-inch Air, which has the highest quality Air screen. So this is definitely something to look for, and I think for the money, especially on the MacBook Pro for £1,000 or the MacBook for 1,050, if you're going for like a 13-inch size, is in my opinion worth the money. It depends if you need the screen space. If you're just going to be want a nice looking laptop that's light to take around and go on Facebook, then I'd say probably not. Next, we're going to look at the weight. It depends if this is important to you. In my personal opinion, I've got a MacBook Pro Retina, and 1.5 kilograms is plenty light enough. However, the new MacBook is only 0.92 kilograms, which is even lighter, and it's very thin. My MacBook Air 13-inch is 0.3 to 1.7 centimeters thin, which is a thin laptop, and this is thinner again. If you are lugging it around, you're going to hardly notice it's there. Now, one big pro for the new MacBook is you can get it in multiple colors. Both of my Air and my Pro are in silver, and I would love to have a space grey one. But you can only get this if you have it on the MacBook. So if you're really tied to colour because you just want a fancy looking laptop, then you can obviously go there. Now, diving into something a bit more technical now, we're going to look at the processors, the memory, and the storage. So the first thing we can clear up is the storage. I would highly recommend, unless you really need the space, that you go for flash storage. And all of them except for the cheaper MacBook Pro come with flash storage. And this is quick. You'll notice your boot time's pretty fast, and it's probably not going to be the bottleneck on any applications that you're running. The next thing we can look at, which is fairly easy to compare, is memory. So this is depending on whether you need it or not. I personally would upgrade this to 8 gig as a minimum nowadays. I would only really go for 4 gig if this was sort of a everyday computer, you're just using it for browsing or a bit of Facebook. If you're going to be doing any development with virtual machines or any editing in Photoshop or something like that, or you just like to leave lots of stuff open, you can utilize the extra memory. It's about £90, I think, for the upgrade from 4 gig to 8. So I certainly got 8 on this one, and I also upgraded my Air to 8 gig as well. You can see here using Memory Clean, I've currently got 300 available. Probably because I've got virtual machines running, but yeah, there's quite a lot being used there. The next thing is the graphics. The Intel graphics are fairly similar. I wouldn't say you're massively going to notice the difference between the performance of these. Maybe the Intel 4000, though in my opinion you probably wouldn't be choosing this for gaming. And if you're doing Photoshop work, you're likely to be going for one of the Pros, in which case you get the Iris graphics anyway, which are much improved. I can't comment too much on the Radeon R9s. I know that the R9 is a very powerful graphics card. It adds a lot of extra cost, but if you really need the power there for editing, the option's there for you. I think for most users that's not going to be the case. And the last thing we can look at is the processor. Processors, if you look at the gigahertz, you have two things. You have obviously the gigahertz, which is the speed, and then you have the amount of cores it has, which is the amount of each one can run alongside one another. each one has different architecture, different technologies built into it. So, but if they're the same processor, you can somewhat give them a like-to-like comparison. So for the 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3, if they're all dual-core Intel Core M processors of the same specification, same year, then the 1.3 is going to be slightly quicker than the 1.2, and the 1.2 is going to be slightly quicker than the 1.1. You can look at it in a percentage base. This is going to be nearly 10% quicker, and then this one nearly 20% quicker than the top one. So just to order these up, I would say from the Pros, you obviously get a minimum of 2 and a bit gigahertz. The Core i5s are good processors. On the flip side, on the on the new MacBook, you get a Core M processor, it's a lot lighter on power usage, so it's going to help you with your battery power, which we can look at in a minute. I also, on my Air, I have the 1.6 i5, and it's okay for Photoshop and running virtual machines, but it's not as quick as my Pro, which is noticeably faster. Again, if you're just getting a computer for light browsing, I would just stick to one of the low specifications. Now, we can go on to battery and power. The MacBook Air, which I have, 13-inch, is 12 hours battery life, which is really good. I do get nearly up to this, but on the Pro, it's pretty good as well, getting up to 10 hours here. In my opinion, most of these, unless you really important to you, most of these suffice. It's rarely your 9 hours without being able to plug your Mac in. Evidently, it's going to be less than this if you are doing something that's high intensity on your CPU. But these are pretty much self-explanatory. It's not too technical. I don't need to go into it. Lastly, we can look at the ports. It depends if the ports are important to you, but you can always factor this into your cost, as if you buy adapters from Apple, they are quite expensive and they soon add up. For instance, if you need a HDMI port, the Pro 13 and 15, or the 13 with Retina, has HDMI, but none of the other models do. In fact, the new MacBook actually has hardly any ports whatsoever. You're going to need to be buying adapters for pretty much everything. So unless you're going to be using it just to charge and do a bit of browsing, you never need to plug devices in. You probably, with the devices, if you're buying them from Apple, are going to quickly get down to the price of a Pro. But you can use the other things and weigh up which is most useful for you. Other things is the Force trackpad is on the better MacBooks Pros and the new MacBook. This is great. It's noticeably better to use and nicer to use. You could do some reading on Force Touch trackpad on Apple if you're interested in that further. And you've got some other things which are I don't need to go into. They're pretty standard. The camera is obviously HD on all of them except for the MacBook. They've all got Bluetooth. The Wi-Fi is probably going to be fine for most of you. The new MacBook, again, doesn't have the Thunderbolt ports and things like that. That's because you have to have adapters for everything you use. You have a couple on the bigger MacBook Pros. And the rest of this is fairly similar. Another thing to notice here is the CD drive. The only one that has a CD drive of all of these without an adapter is the MacBook Pro without Retina. This is evidently because this space is being used up by other things, such as the graphics card to power the Retina, or maybe other things. They haven't been able to fit that in, so I personally never need one. But if you do need one, you're going to, and it's really important to have it as part of your computer, then the MacBook Pro without Retina is going to be your best bet. Now, I hope this has been useful for you and helps you pick one of your MacBooks. If you have any questions about them, be sure to drop them in the comments section below, and I'll try and answer them for you. And if you want more videos, please subscribe and like for more. Thank you.